Well, hey there, Vikings. Welcome back to the playthrough. We are on episode 13, and you catch us grabbing a quick rest break from the end of our previous episode. We've gone out exploring the meadows a bit further. We're basically trying to find a nice, large black forest biome so that we can explore and find some of the things that we're missing, or that we haven't found yet. And yeah, so we just wanted to get our rested buff so that we could have that juicy stamina regen. So at the end of our previous episode, you might remember that we actually finally found our first beehive out in the wild, and we now have our first queen bee. We've also got a couple of bits of honey. Hopefully we can find some more before we head back, but having our first one does take a bit of pressure off, as we can now start producing our own honey rather than having to find it out in the wild. And yeah, we're basically just going to continue exploring. Oh wow, this is a lot of mushrooms in one spot. That's like 6 of them all in one go. Oh, 5, sorry. I miscounted there. Beautiful. Oh, another abandoned village. Fantastic. Let's see if things crossed. Oh, yes. Amazing. That's absolutely fantastic. That is. So, that little bit in the top corner there, that's another beehive. If we get a little bit closer, we'll probably get stung. Yep, there we go. A tiny little bit of poison damage from being stung by the bees. So the bees will passively hang around after you destroy the hive for a few seconds. So you will, obviously, if you can always wait. The damage isn't massive. It's like 1.3 to 1.9 damage that you take from the actual poison damage. I'm not sure if it's based on your armor, your health, or anything, but yeah, it doesn't hit hard at all, so I wouldn't worry too much about it unless you're already on very, very low health. But yeah, we now have our second queen bee, and we are just continuing to explore the area. I am quite enjoying this meadows biome and how large it is. It's absolutely huge, this starter island. I don't think I've seen one that big before. Oh my god. Sorry, I'm really having to resist making a that's what she said joke. Let's try to stay mature, shall we? This is quite a large little open area. Very hilly though. We'd have to go to town with the hoe in this area if you wanted to build anything. I'm not really liking how blurry it is when I look at those valleys quite far away. Yeah, I think we'll change that. If we go to the graphic settings, where what we're looking for, depth of field, I believe it is. There's motion blur as well. Not really. Motion blur isn't what's causing the issue, but I think we'll turn that off anyway because I'm not that fussed by it. And then depth of field, that should hopefully. Once we turn that off and we go back out, yeah, there we go. So I always turn depth of field off on games like this, especially for Valheim. It's quite important, I believe, anyway, because when you're exploring out and about and you're trying to make out, especially if you're looking for certain things, if you're trying to make out what it is that you can see off in the distance, whether it's a tree or a building or anything like that, or any animals or creatures. And even more so when you're exploring and you're sailing along coast, if you're out on a boat and you're exploring new areas, you kind of want to be able to make out what it is that you're looking at in the distance on like the shoreline and stuff, so that you can mark it on the map or you can go visit it if it's something you're looking for. So yeah, I just prefer turning depth of field off. It wasn't that bad. You could still kind of make out what we were looking at in the distance there, but yeah, I just prefer having clarity over guesswork. I don't want to have to walk all the way over there to find out it's not the thing I was looking for and then walk all the way back. So yeah. We'll turn that off for now. I believe, again, I could be wrong about this, so don't take what I say with as like definitive truth, but I believe it is a bit more intensive on your graphics and your CPU if you turn off depth of field, obviously, because it's got to sharply render out all those images quite far away. But again, I could be wrong about that. But yeah, I think I'm pretty certain that my computer can handle that little change, so we should be all right to have that turned off. We haven't seen any issues so far in terms of graphics or... Oh, bloody hell, a couple of bugs, a couple of boars. These guys wanting to pick a fight. You can have a spear and you can have a spear. There we go. So yeah, I believe it would make the game a little bit more intensive on your PC to have those settings turned off, but I just prefer that. There's another boar there. Oh, one mistake I have been making as well, it's just a couple of times that I've referenced it. When you see those very large, wide trees out and about, the very, very large ones, I've been calling them willow trees. They're not willow trees, they're oak trees. I recently discovered that and have decided to correct myself. Because, yeah, I don't know why I got willow tree stuck in my head. But yeah, they're oak trees. Technically, they're oak trees. And they do give quite a lot of wood when you cut them down. Aha! We're back at another black forest biome. That's another stone tower. This will probably have some skeletons in it. Sometimes when you discover these abandoned stone buildings... Oh, yeah, these are already coming out to greet me. Grab my shield and my club. Funny, because these guys actually are quite durable, I will say. Although, When you parry them, they go down nice and quick. But yeah, so when you find these abandoned stone buildings, sometimes they will have skeletons in them and sometimes they won't. I believe this one will probably have some more upstairs. Although this is technically a ladder and not a set of stairs, as you can see our character's jumping up it. Oh, there's one with a bow. The bow skeletons are quite annoying, but again, like I have said, with the Grey Dwarves and their ability to throw a stone and your ability to parry them once they've thrown a stone at you, you can also do the same with archers. So skeletons with a bow, when they shoot at you, it doesn't matter how far away you're standing, if you parry that arrow right before it hits, you will be able to get the damage bonus on them. Obviously, it doesn't really work if you're stood quite far away from them, because by the time you actually close the distance, they will have recovered from their stagger and you'll have lost the parry bonus damage. But if they're stood right in front of you about to shoot, it could be worse. At least parrying it just so you can get that bonus damage and take them down that little bit quicker. Same way that you do with all of the melee or however you want to pronounce it. Creatures. Aha! I think this might just be what we've finally been looking for. And of course it's in it's in the meadows. If you look at our bio marker at the top right, it's in the meadows. Okay, so we finally found our first burial chamber. Fantastic. I've been waiting to find one of these. Yep, and Hugin shows up to tell us about it. Hello, Hugin. Delves and dungeons. There we go. They can find across the 10th world. So technically we are in the meadows as we found this. This one has spawned on the border of the Black Forest and the meadows, and it's technically in the meadows, but I'm glad we've finally managed to find one. So this is our little underground dungeon. We don't have a huge amount of space in our backpack, but we are going to mark this one on the map. Might as well mark it. And then I think we might even pop in and have a quick look around. We might even clear it if it's a particularly big one. Sorry, we might clear it if it's a particularly small one. It'll be nice and quick to clear. Just going to get rid of that Black Forest marker there. We don't really need it anymore. But yeah, let's head inside, shall we? It's a burial chamber. I'm pretty sure all of them are called burial chambers. I just keep calling them crypts because it pretty much means the same thing. Now, our rested buff is wearing out, and we are technically in shelter for being underground, so we are quickly going to pop a campfire down and get a larger rested buff. I don't want it to run out as we're in the middle of this dungeon that we're running. One thing to be aware of, though, if you want to do this trick where you can see that I'm getting comfort 3. Oh, I just stood up. Oh, great, that's going to have to reset the timer. Yeah, so one thing to be aware of when you do this is that you are running a high risk of being smoked out, because it's a very closed off small room and the fire is constantly putting smoke out, so we might get it this time. Yeah, there you go, smoked. But we did get a 10-minute rested buff, so at least we've got that. We are also going to need a torch as we're running through this, as it is quite dark inside these dungeons. There isn't any visible light sources apart from these yellow mushrooms, which aren't fantastic. And we are also going to want to pick these up as we go around, as we do need them. Yeah, let's get started, shall we? There are 3 pathways. Pretty much in every dungeon you'll find 3 pathways. Some of them will be blocked off, but it's quite rare. Oh wow, we found one already. Okay, so there is a 1-star skeleton. Let's get that club out. Take him down nice and quick, so he's going to deal some quite large amounts of damage to us. So if you can see the glowing purple smoke thing on the floor, that is another spawner. Oh wow, that went down really quickly. So that is very similar to the Grey Dwarf spawner. Oh, sorry, nest. It's a spawner. At the end of the day, hello. This is the main reason why we're here. Well, there's 2 main reasons why we're here, actually. We've pretty much found everything we need from the burial chamber in the first room. That is fantastic. So these orange glowing things are... Let me just quickly pick up the bones and stuff and clear out this room first. Don't think there's anywhere skeletons are going to come from while we're exploring. No, we should be good. Right, so these glowing orange things are Surtling cores. And as you can see there after we picked it up, we now have 2 new build pieces, the smelter and the charcoal kiln. So we now have the ability to create charcoal, and we also have the ability to smelt ores. We need these Surtling cores in order to power them. They're basically heat things. I'm guessing they produce heat, something like that. There is also some amber and some coins and stuff scattered around. And then there is this. Here is our location stone for the next boss, the Elder. As you can see, he's quite far away from where we are now. We might even have to go sailing to get to his island, but I'm really happy that we've managed to find that, as we can actually get started on progressing towards him. But yeah, I'm really happy we found that many Surtling cores as well. With Surtling cores, in order to build those two, you will need 5 per build or per item that you build. So we're obviously going to want at least 1 charcoal kiln and 1 smelter. So that's 10 that we're going to need in total to start off with. You could get started with 5 if you wanted to, because all you could do is just build the charcoal kiln, burn yourself a bunch of wood to get charcoal, and then knock down the kiln to then make the smelter, and then you can just keep doing it that way. But that will take you a very long time, as you won't be able to do both at once. Ideally, I usually say you want 3 as a good starting point. So you could have, to get started, I'd have 2 charcoal kilns just constantly pumping out charcoal whilst you're gathering the initial amounts of ore and stuff like that. Keep refilling them every time you get to them, stuff like that. And then once you've actually got a lot of charcoal ready to use and you've got quite a lot of ore gathered as well, you can then switch one of them into a smelter. So you could have 2 smelters and 1 kiln, and then you could still be producing the charcoal whilst you're using the charcoal you've already made to smelt down your ores. But you'd have 2 smelters going at the same time, which would obviously double your production. That's just a good way to get started. It's something that I would recommend when you're getting started on smelting down ores for the first time. As you can see as well, these little dungeons are full of rooms. They will have chests and stuff gathered and scattered around. We are just going to dump a couple of things in here that we don't really need. Don't really need that many. I think we're just going to dump our wooden arrows now. We're not going to use them anymore. We've also dumped the leather scraps, as we still have quite a lot of those, so we don't really need them. So yeah, I'm just going to continue exploring this dungeon. Now, one thing I would say is that you could make use of the parry mechanic and hit these skeletons with the torch if you didn't want to have to put the torch away every time you started fighting skeletons in this dungeon, in the burial chambers, as the brightness is very low. It's very dark inside, so it is difficult to see. But the problem with it is that the torch on its own does very, very little damage, and you'd basically be hoping for the crit from parrying them in order to do all the damage, and the burning damage from the torch as well. Check out this door here. Oh, there's another spawner. More skeletons. There's an arrow skeleton as well. Let's try and drag them closer to the door. Grab our club. There's 3 of them in total. But they're not doing a huge amount of damage to us. That's possibly because we've got the troll hide armor on, so just parry him. Give him a few hits. Now, one thing you'll notice is that sometimes I'm doing a lot less damage to them, especially even if it's just one of them. Now, that might be because we're stood next to a wooden doorway, and because we're hitting multiple things at once, our damage is being split between them. Even if we're not doing actual damage to the doorway, it will still be reducing the damage we do to the skeletons. So again, a more optimal way of fighting them that I would recommend is to make sure that you are dragging them into rooms, into open spaces, and try and take them one-on-one as well. Skeletons can be a bit of a pain when it comes to grouping up on you, especially if there's a couple of our archers as well. They will group up on you, so dragging them through the dungeon is a good idea if you find yourself getting a bit overwhelmed. You do have passive health regeneration in the game. It does change depending on the types of food that you've eaten. I think it's once every 5 seconds you get a tick of health, and then depending on the food that you've eaten will determine how big that tick will be. I think the higher level food that you eat, the better food that you eat, the more that health tick will be. And there are obviously other healing items as well in the game, which we will hopefully discover quite soon. But yeah, if you find yourself getting overwhelmed, it might be a good idea to drag them back to the entrance and, say, leave the dungeon. They won't follow you outside once you leave the dungeon itself, but you can leave for like a couple of minutes to regen your health and get your wits about you, eat some more food, that kind of stuff, and then run back in and clear them out. If you do pull several of them to the doorway of the dungeon and leave, they will be stood right next to the door when you go back in, so just be aware of that. And obviously, as you can see, as we've been running, this one's clear now. As you can see, as we've been going around this dungeon, it has been quite claustrophobic in terms of the camera. It's been literally over our shoulder the entire time. That's just how it is, because the dungeon itself is quite small. The roofs aren't the ceiling isn't that high up, so you will have to get used to fighting in that quite close-up camera view. But yeah, this dungeon is now clear. You will have also seen there that I have put a red X through the crypt marker here. So you need to press left bumper on your controller or left click on your mouse when you're hovering over the mark on the map, and that will place a red X through it. It's a really useful tool that I highly recommend using. you don't have to mark all the things that I've been marking throughout the playthrough. You know, if you just want to randomly wander around the meadows to explore and find more raspberries and stuff like that, you can do that, and mushrooms and other fruit and veg in the future. But I would highly recommend marking things like dungeons and crypts and stuff like that. There are a lot of biomes that make use of caves and dungeons and crypts and all these kind of underground things, and having them marked on your map it's not only useful for finding them if you go back there in future, but it's also useful for placing a red X through that mark, and then you can tell if you've been in that dungeon and cleared it. Sometimes, especially later on in the playthrough, sometimes you will have dungeons that you'll have to leave things behind because you either won't have the carry space or the carry weight to carry everything, but a lot of it is very useful. So you won't be able to carry everything, and you'll have to go back there in order to continue clearing it. And again, just being able to tell which dungeons you've cleared and which ones you haven't it's a very useful tool. Oh, excuse me, bit of gas there. But yeah, I highly like it. It's one of those quality of life features they've added since the game's come out. The same as snap building. It's fantastic. Building on a controller was a pain in the backside when you first started playing Valheim, because you had to either have a decent angle to look down at the object you're trying to build on, which when you're getting started on a building, it's not difficult. When you start building a roof, you kind of have to climb up the wall and get on a decent angle in order to snap it properly, with the standard snapping that it first had when the game first came out. But they've now added, I don't know when, but they have recently added the snapping options, which you've seen me use in building our first house, which was being able to snap to the bottom or the top of an object and snapping to different corners. It just makes building on controller so much easier. It really is. I will always say that building with mouse and keyboard is so much quicker because you can be a lot more accurate with your placements and a lot quicker with placing stuff down, but they have made controller playing a lot easier and a lot more like smoother with a lot of the quality of life features they've added. So I do highly appreciate them for doing that. They've done really well with Valheim since it came out. If you ask my opinion, it's a fantastic game. All the updates and all the massive like contents and new biomes and zones and stuff they've added and fixes and stuff like that. Even though I would probably be one of the main people that says I don't think I've seen that many bugs in Valheim since it's come out, unless of course you go to the Mistlands. No, I'm sorry, that's a terrible joke. But yeah, I haven't seen that many bugs or glitches or anything in Valheim since it's come out at all whatsoever. And they've done nothing but add more content, more zones, more biomes, more creatures, and quality of life stuff, and it's just absolutely fantastic. And yeah, I've never had to pay for any of it since I first bought it. So yeah, massive kudos to the developers of Valheim. It's a fantastic game, and I thoroughly enjoy playing it. I really hope they continue going with it. Yeah, we're just heading home right now, sprinting through the forest, making use of our Eikthyr buff to sprint endlessly. Nearly home as well. So we are getting close to the end of this session as well. I don't think there's much more that I can really do, although we are now on day 14, which I'm quite surprised about. But yeah, I don't think there's really much more we can do on this session right now. We're probably going to end it soon. So I think when we get home, we'll just organise stuff into chests and start getting ready to build our smelter and our charcoal kiln and stuff like that. We'll probably place it just outside the front of the house. We'll probably flatten another area for it, and then hopefully when we build our crafting building we might even be able to shift it inside there. Okay, so I think we're going to put another food chest in because we're getting to the point now where the fruit and veg chest is getting quite full. The meat chest is also going to be getting quite full at some point soon as well. But yeah, I think we're going to split off, say, things like the seeds, the dandelions, the thistles, and put them into a chest of their own. Don't get me wrong, there are larger chests in the game. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of these beginning chests because they're tiny, and you have to have lots of them before you get the ability to build more. But we will get larger chests eventually, and we won't have to have as many of them. Although I'll be honest, with cooking I usually have 4 chests, like 3 to 4 chests. I usually have 3 chests that are dedicated to, again, fruit and veg, meat, and then there's obviously like other things like thistles and dandelions and other stuff like that. And then I usually have a fourth chest that's kept away from that, but near like the cooking stations themselves, which is like the cooked meals and stuff like that, the prepared stuff. So it does get better, but I'm just as bad for it as well when it comes to chest organization. But again, a lot of these chests at some point will be moved somewhere. Again, I think I said in a previous episode, I'm probably going to build an upstairs to this building. Maybe not. I'm not 100% sure yet. We might even just build a little side room onto it at some point. We are going to focus more on building the crafting room first, rather than actually just, rather than doing that system. So that crafting room is going to be coming up quite soon. I'm probably just going to build it onto the side of the building, to be honest. And yeah, that's going to be where all our crafting tables and stuff are. We'll probably keep the majority of our like crafting components in there as well. There won't be much that we actually keep separate. I think for stuff like stone, I am going to continue building those stone piles out of 50 blocks, out of 50 stones, because they're a good way of storing stone nearby, and you can just knock them down when you need the actual stone themselves. We will be onto building with stone at some point in the playthrough later on, so they will be used at some point to build as something else. But yeah, for now, I just don't really want to keep chest after chest after chest of stones, because that's just going to take up loads of space. And for now, we are going to place down our first beehive. Technically, we have two. We're going to place it a little bit away from the wall. You want to give them a bit of space so the bees are happy. So give a little bit more space. There we go. Perfect. There we go. If we hover over them, the bees are happy. Check the other one as well. Bees are happy. Yep. So it says beehive, and next to it says empty. So a beehive will slowly generate honey over time. The maximum a beehive can hold is 4. So I'm not sure exactly how long it is in terms of how long it takes to produce 4 bits of honey, or how long 1 bit of honey takes to produce. But what I would say is that every time you go past the beehives, just quickly hover over them and check how much honey's in there. If you see there's 4 in there, just activate them to get the honey out and dump your honey in a food chest somewhere. And then obviously bees can continue producing honey, because once they've hit 4, they'll stop producing altogether. I don't think it goes over 4. I mean, I've never seen it go over that, so yeah. And I think this is where we're going to call it as well. We've pretty much got everything sorted from today's gathering session. Just quickly repair up, and then yeah, we'll call it here for the time being. Thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this one. In our next session, we're probably going to crack on with gathering materials, minerals, ores and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.